Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, Calaveras and Books. I'm Sandy. So today I wanted to do the horror book challenge. So as some of you know, I am a huge horror fan. I love reading horror books and I love watching horror movies and I love listening to horror podcasts. So I was really excited when I found this tag. So I'm just gonna read out all of the questions here. So question 1 is, how and when did you get into horror? I don't think there was ever a specific point in my life that I thought, oh yes, I am now a horror fan. I think it was all progressive. Like when I was a kid, I used to like watching the creepier, darker cartoons. Like I loved cartoons like Courage the Cowardly Dog or The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, stuff like that. I think it's just been a gradual thing, and then the older I got, the spookier my taste for it was. Question 2 is, what was the first horror book you read? The first horror book I read is called The Ghost's Grave by Peg Kehrt. I don't remember too much of it, though I do remember I was in middle school. I was around 12 years old, and this book kept me up at night. I remember getting to the end, finding out who murdered who, and my heart was beating so fast, and I don't remember a time where that was replicated, and I think that might have been a time that I just really got hooked onto that adrenaline that horror brings. What horror related goodness can we expect from your channel? Well, I don't want to say that my channel is exclusive to horror, because I do like genres outside of it, but I will talk a lot about some favorite horror books. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Do you have any favorite themes or subgenres in horror? Yes. So I don't know why, but I love demonic possession within teenagers, or teenagers doing exorcisms or stuff like that. There's something about teenage girls summoning Satan that I'm just really into. And I've read books about it, so I love it. Name an underrated horror novel or author. Okay, so I'm gonna say The Merciless by Danielle Vega. So this is exactly what I was talking about teenagers and demonic possession. So I had the whole series. The first book is this pink one right here, but I lent it to someone and they never gave it back. So that really sucks. But yeah, I'd say this is definitely underrated. As for the Vamp series by Nancy A. Collins, I absolutely love this trilogy, and I don't think it gets the love that it deserves. Name an overrated horror novel or author. Okay, so for this, I picked The Shining by Stephen King. Please don't at me. I love Stephen King and I do love The Shining. However, I don't think it's necessarily his best work. So yes, I have not read all of Stephen King's work. However, I feel like Pet Sematary is a lot better than The Shining. So yeah, I think The Shining is a little overrated. Recommend 3 of your favorite horror novels. Okay, so one is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Again, teenagers being possessed. Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and Fantastic Land by Mike Bockoven. And for those who don't know, My Best Friend's Exorcism is about a girl whose best friend becomes possessed by a demon and she has to take it upon herself to give her friend an exorcism. Pet Sematary is about a cemetery where you bury pets and they come back to life. And Fantastic Land is almost like a Lord of the Flies retelling where teenagers are fighting for their lives, basically. It's better than I make it sound, I promise. Recommend a book for someone who is new to the horror genre. I recommend The Merciless by Danielle Vega, just because it is kind of a starter. It's a YA novel, but I think that if you want to dip your feet into horror, this would be a good place to start. Are there any book to film adaptations that you loved or hated? So I didn't like the 1980s version of Pet Sematary. I didn't find it scary. I just didn't like it, and I thought the book was amazing. I have not seen the most recent Pet Sematary, but I've heard a lot of people didn't like it. I think I've heard maybe 1 or 2 people say they really liked it, so I don't know about that. I'm gonna have to watch it, but definitely that. It by Stephen King. I have the book, I just to be honest, I'm really intimidated by it, so I haven't read the whole thing. But I do really love the most recent It movie. The second one's coming out, and I know I'm gonna love it. So, how do you discover new horror books? Goodreads mostly, some booktubers, Instagram, stuff like that. There is a podcast where it's a book club, so they read a horror book, and then at the end of the month they talk about it and put out this podcast. So that's another way that I learned about horror books. What was the last horror book you bought? I don't know. Okay, so I don't know if you consider this horror, but the last horror book I bought was Ghost Stories of Saskatchewan by Joanne Christensen. Saskatchewan was the province that I used to live in, and I'm trying to collect all of these ghost story books, so yeah, I got this at a used bookstore. Okay, and the last question is, what horror book is at the top of your wish list? So I have a list. The first is Prom Nights from Hell, which is a collection of short stories. Feed by Myra Grant, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I really want to read that book. She wrote The Haunting of Hill House, and I loved the show, and just this book sounds really good. So yeah, I encourage all of you to try this tag if you love horror or want to get into horror. Please drop your horror book suggestions down below, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.